If you're looking to get into HVAC and you want to build a career in HVAC, stay tuned for this episode. Right now, I'm driving down to our guest house, Eric Grubbs. Eric Grubbs has 20 plus years in the HVAC industry. He has a 20 plus year career in the military, in the Air Force. HVAC is this guy's trade. He loves teaching it. He loves training about HVAC. So if you want to build a career in HVAC, this guy is going to give you the steps and the stuff you need to get started in HVAC right now with no experience. So if that's you, stay tuned for this episode. Hello, welcome back to the Blue Collar Edu podcast. Today, I have a very special guest, Eric Grubbs. Eric Grubbs is a professional in the HVAC industry. Eric, welcome to the show.
Oh, thank you very much, Austin. Glad to be here.
Yeah, man, it's been a pleasure to be able to come down to your residence here. This has been an anticipated podcast I want to do for a while because HVAC is a major industry, and I have a lot of people in my audience who want to get into HVAC. And I've had to struggle, having a hard time trying to find an HVAC professional to do this episode with. And you just been the perfect guy. Somehow I was put in connection with you. My brother somehow got your contact or somebody else, and now I got in contact with you. But it's been awesome. So
Yes.
Let's just hop right into this, Eric. Let's just tell the audience kind of who you are, where you come from, where you were born and raised, and just kind of a backstory about yourself.
Absolutely. So I'm originally from North Carolina, born and raised. And one of the things growing up, I actually had family who's been in construction. I've got a cousin that owns a concrete finishing company. Summers during high school, I would go and work for him. And I learned really quickly, I do not want to do concrete work. Because of that, I ended up joining the military, going in the Air Force. And they asked me, they said, well, what do you want to do? And I said, well, only thing I know is construction. I know concrete. But I don't know electrical, I don't know plumbing, and I don't know HVAC. And they said, well, we have a sign-on bonus for HVAC if you'd like to get into it, and it's kind of a little bit of everything. And I said, absolutely, it sounds great. So joined the Air Force back in 1999, started my HVAC career, went through a long 6-month tech school through the Air Force, and very, very intense, learned a ton of information, everything from refrigeration, all the way up to large chillers and commercial type of equipment. Because once you leave tech school and you go to your first assignment, you don't know which pieces of equipment that you're going to be working with at that base. So you had to learn a little bit of everything, and then once you got your base, you kind of specialized in those areas. My first duty assignment in HVAC was on large chiller and boiler type systems. So I got to know that really, really well the first 4 years of my career. After that, the Air Force asked me to, hey, how would you like to be an instructor? And I thought, well, that would be a pretty good career move, right? Started loving HVAC, started learning it a lot better, being out in the field. So I went to the schoolhouse and got certified as an instructor in the HVAC industry. Absolutely loved the role. I had an opportunity to train people, change people's lives, change their career. So having us have this conversation about folks, how do you get into HVAC? It has really opened a lot of doors for my life. 26 years later, I've retired from the Air Force. I now do training for different manufacturers and different companies all over the country, actually. So whether it's virtual or if it's in person, it's ironic that I'm actually here and not on the road doing classes. But many different things that I've done just in the Air Force with HVAC, project management on construction sites, new installs, things of that nature, all the way to what I've done on the civilian side, working for major manufacturers, instructional design, developing training, and then also facilitating training programs. So I absolutely love what I do simply because you get gratification from both. As a technician, you get the gratification that you are making a difference in somebody's life, right? If somebody's AC is down, especially here in Phoenix, Arizona, it's a bad day. It's hot, it's miserable, and in a lot of instances, you can't survive here in the desert without AC.
Right.
So it's that good feeling of fixing somebody's equipment, but at the same time with teaching, you really get that accomplishment that I'm making a difference in somebody's life.
Yeah.
This is what's going to change where they go from here. And one of the things I've always done, Austin, is with training, people that go into this and are a student of mine, I always give them my contact information. Let me know where you're at. Let me know how your career's going. If there's anything I can assist you with, I'm more than happy to help out. And so I've had a few students that's actually reached out, stayed in contact for many years, and just kind of saw how their career progressed from a technician, apprentice, journeyman, and finally a craftsman in the HVAC world. And they end up either owning their own business, they end up being a service manager or some other department lead within the industry. Haven't had any go into training yet, but for me, that was probably one of my most pivotal moments in this career field. But that's just kind of a little bit of what I've been through in HVAC.
So this is why I think you're a perfect guest, because with our channel, this channel, Blue Collar Edu, our main focus is getting either a younger generation or realistically anyone, people are looking for a career change, whatever. There's that knowledge gap of getting started. Okay, I know about the HVAC trade. You know, I know what they do. It's, you know, AC, heating, ventilation stuff, and like every house or every building typically has it, except for this shop.
Right.
But typically, you know, every building has it. Industrial, commercial, residential. That seems interesting to me. But how do I get started? So from your professional career so far, you know, 20 plus years in the HVAC industry, let's give some insight to someone who could be 18, graduating high school. Let's use that for an example, because I think that's a good place to start. They have no real life experience quite yet, but they see the HVAC trade. Let's give them some insight, some steps of what they could do to move forward to pursuing an HVAC career.
Absolutely. So one, this is a very unique time period that we live in right now, which kind of opens up a lot of doors for people looking to get into the trades in general. Mm-hmm. For HVAC specific, because of this trade shortage, there's a lot of HVAC companies right now that are looking for folks that may not have that skill set yet, but they are willing to take on. And what they're looking for in somebody wanting to get into HVAC is somebody with that passion. Mm-hmm. They want to be able to make those changes. Mm-hmm. They want to be able to see somebody who's willing to do and put in the work and the effort to be able to do it. A lot of folks are going into a lot of the trade schools, right? And I know you and I have talked about this a few times, that the trade schools really focus on the curriculum. And it's not a bad thing, but when you go through a program that focuses on, hey, we want to make sure you get those college credits and different things, and they're going to throw a lot of stuff at you, kind of like the Air Force did me. But once you leave those institutions, you know, people have unrealistic expectations that they're going to go into a company, they're going to be able to make all of this money that is just unrealistic from somebody that's just starting out, right? Nobody's going to wake up and say, hey, I want to be an HVAC technician right out of high school, go and get an HVAC position and expect to make, you know, $70,000, $80,000, $100,000 a year. It's just not feasible. However, with that being said, there's many options people can do. One that I would recommend, and what I see working with dealers all the time, is they just want somebody who's willing to show up, who's ambitious and has drive. If you can hit those three things and you go to a company and say, hey, I would like to learn to be an HVAC tech. What can I do for your company? Would you be willing to take me on? A lot of the smaller companies may not have the resources to invest in that individual at that point in time, but there are a ton of large HVAC companies that may have already a great training program set up to say, you know what, we have the capability to train you internally and turn you into an HVAC technician. And I would highly recommend anyone that's looking to get into this trade, reach out to those big, large HVAC companies in your area, have that conversation. Don't be afraid to call them. Don't be afraid to have that conversation, because you'll be surprised. These companies are looking for people. And honestly, they would rather take somebody that they can train from the ground up as opposed to somebody who just completed a 6-month, 9-month, 2-year program who is cocky, arrogant, and think they know everything because they went through this training. I've been in HVAC for 26 years. I'm the first to tell anyone I do not know everything there is to know about HVAC. And the reason is this industry is too broad. You've got too many different components. The industry changes all the time. Processes that we were taught 30, 40 years ago in HVAC, if you apply those same things today, which a lot of companies and a lot of people still do, they still have in that mindset, this is how I was taught, this is how I need to do this. But the problem is with the changes in technology, there's other factors that people fail to continue their learning when it comes to HVAC. That's the first key, is ambition, drive, and the desire to be able to make those calls and get into it. As we talked about before, I've worked for major manufacturers as well in the training industry, and there are manufacturers that actually have training programs to help people get into the HVAC trade. One of them in particular is Lennox. They have the Build-A-Tech program. It's a 3-week-long program. It is very condensed, but it's geared toward residential technicians. So you learn everything you need to know to be a residential tech, and at least a service tech, understand how the equipment functions, how it operates, sequence of operation, how to troubleshoot it, and also how to check airflow, which is a big key in HVAC right now, especially in residential, is that airflow is the most overlooked component of this. But there's tons of avenues to be able to do it, as opposed to going to a traditional trade school, if you will. There's nothing wrong with a trade school, but sometimes that may be the harder way to get into this industry.
Yeah, that's definitely something I talk about on the channel a lot, and a lot of people are outweighing, do I go to a trade school or do I just look for an apprenticeship or try to look for just a place to work? Do I spend the time and the money to go to a trade school? Do I have to? Because it can be a burden, right? The whole kind of point of the trades is like, hey, I don't have to go into debt to go get some sort of degree or something, right? I go into the trades, enter the trades, start making money, get experience right off the bat. And so that's one thing I do try to tell people is, like, especially if you want to get into residential, whether that be plumbing, electrical, or HVAC, is like, let's say here in the Valley of Phoenix, how many HVAC companies are there? And how many of them, if you were to just either show up to in your area, in probably your 10, 15 mile area of where you live, or if you're just to call and, like you're saying, have the ambition, the eagerness, like, hey, I know I don't have the trade school, I don't have any certifications, but I want to get to this trade. So, like, I do try telling people to just do that. Because you're kind of setting yourself apart from other people as well by doing that. Because how many people are actually reaching out to these companies instead of just going on Indeed? It's so easy just to send an application and send your resume. It's so much easier to do that just on your phone. You don't have to have any sort of contact or nothing. It's all email. But how hard is it just to pick up your phone and say, hey, and just explain, or even show up, bring some flowers to the front desk lady, bring some donuts, bring some coffee. You know what I mean? Like, that is going to set yourself apart from other people who maybe applied via online. So with that being said, you find that HVAC trade is something that you want to pursue. How do you know if you should try to pursue residential, commercial, or industrial, and kind of what those different avenues look like for someone who perhaps wants to pursue, a career in this industry?
Absolutely. So 2 things on that. One, when you start talking, let's say refrigeration, for instance, is very dialed in, it's very specific. And they do kind of look for that specific training to be able to get into it. It's kind of one of those weird phenomenons that they are looking for technicians that are solid and already have the skill set and the training. So they're not typically looking to bring somebody brand new on a lot of times. Now, there's always different companies that may be willing to do that, but more of the commercial industrial type stuff, refrigeration or large chillers type systems, they're going to want you to have that experience. You can get started, you can have those same conversations like you're talking about, and see if they're willing to take you on. It also depends on how they're set up. Some of them have internal training, they're willing to do that. But a lot of them, it's all about, hey, we need techs to go out there, service the equipment, maintain it, replace it, whatever the case may be, and be effective. Because again, a business exists because it's to make money, right? And to help other people.
Exactly.
Residential is the easiest way to get into it because you've got so many residential companies, they're trying to get on. I would highly recommend, when pursuing and having those conversations with those companies, is that you go and have the conversation directly. And here's why. One of the key skill sets in HVAC that is most overlooked is interpersonal skills.
Especially in residential, right?
100%.
Yeah.
Yes. In residential specifically, if you can't have that conversation with a homeowner, you can be the best tech. You can fix things, you can do things, but if you can't communicate properly to a homeowner, your credibility is completely blown. And it will impact how you perform out in the field. If you have good interpersonal skills, I've seen it the other way. Somebody who's a really good communicator, builds good relationships with their customers, they get requested by name. Hey, my unit is down. I need somebody to come out. I want this person specifically. And if it's not that person, I'm not going to have you guys service it. So you're almost building your own business within a business, if that makes sense.
Yes, 100%. 100%. So what do you know anything about, I guess, union, like let's say a union apprenticeship? Like what's your experience with that?
So when I was stationed in Northern California, to work in any aspect of HVAC, from what I've seen, is mostly all unionized. And so even though I was working in the military, I wanted to make some extra money on the weekends. So I got with a HVAC company out there, and before they could hire me, I had to join the union and go through their training program. Even though I've already been trained, I still had to go through their training program and then get identified as, okay, here's where you land on the pay scale, and now you can go and work for this company. Starting out, it was very easy. It was just, again, reaching out to the union and saying, hey, I want to be an HVAC technician. Now, granted, even though I've already brought that to me, there were people there that were brand new, right out of high school. And union programs can be a very good tool to get your foot in the door with this industry. Here in Arizona, we do have unions, but they're not utilized like they are in California.
Exactly. It's a right to work state, right? So a lot of open shop, a lot of non-union here, which is typical. I mean, you have the West Coast, the East Coast that are very pro-union, and then you kind of have everything in the middle that's either not pro-union at all, not a whole lot of union. Union, realistically, I'm a union journeyman lineman, but realistically, unions only complete maybe 10% of work in America. Like, they're very small in the grand scheme of things. So that's always kind of the path I will tell people to take, is like, look into a union apprenticeship, because their training is super good, and it's on the job training. It's a 3, 4, 5 year program depending on the trade, and you're earning while you're learning. You're having in-class learning, and all these different aspects of the apprenticeship is great. And then you become a journeyman HVAC tech, or lineman, or electrician, or plumber, or iron worker. And I just think they're great, but of course there's that barrier to entry, and they only accept so many really applicants a year, depending on workload and how much work the union has. They can accept new applications and bring on apprentices. So there's that barrier to where it's like, if I really want to get started right now, I tell people, well, especially, HVAC or something, look for a residential company, or you just try to get your foot in the door and just see what the trade is all about, right? And then I'd assume the union probably does more industrial, commercial stuff.
A little bit of both.
Okay.
So particularly with that company that I was going to go work for, they were primarily a residential company, but they also did some light commercial. And light commercial is where you're not in with the big chiller type, industrial type systems, but more of like your shopping malls, things of that nature, rooftop package units, more 3-phase type of equipment. But so you kind of get a little bit of both, even working for those companies that are both residential and commercial. And not only that, there's tons of different opportunities. So somebody starting out in HVAC, let's say, we'll just play through the scenario. I call an HVAC company, hey, I'm really eager to get into HVAC. That's my passion. It's what I want to do. Are you looking to bring somebody on? Do you have a training program to help me get up to speed? And some of the bigger companies, they'll say, yes, we do have a training program. We are looking for people who are interested in this field that we can train. And they bring you on. First thing they're going to do, they're going to start training you. And what's really good is that if they're both commercial and residential, you're learning kind of both. Once you get to a certain point for training, then they're going to start pairing you up. Typically, the route goes install. They'll put you as an install tech, and you'll start doing install for about a year to 2 years before they'll start looking to move you into a service or a maintenance position. Maintenance is where you're just going out, you're just checking the system, making sure everything's running properly, identifying any issues or problems, cleaning the systems. And then when you get really good and you can get more into identifying problems and repairing those problems effectively, that's where you usually move into is a service tech. So you're that person that's going to go out there, identify the problems, fix those problems effectively and efficiently, and then move up. And we talk about this at that level. Everything we're talking about is that person out in the field doing the work and everything like that. So 10 years into your career, you can continue on that. I'm sure no company's going to take you out of that role, especially if you've gotten to a service tech position. And you can do it to your however old to retire. Or there's other opportunities that come in. Hey, we want you to be a manager. We want you to be a training manager. We want to get into training, or it could be office area. Maybe you landed it in with a company who the owner now is ready to retire, and he's looking to pass that business off. You just might be that person that's at the right place at the right time, where you work out a deal and you end up now you're a business owner, right? Mm-hmm. I've seen and I've heard all of these stories from different people, and it's amazing because nobody thinks HVAC can lead to those kind of things. So getting into the trade, getting into it, you got to have that initiative. That initiative's got to be first and foremost, and don't worry about it. You already don't have the job. Whether somebody tells you no, it doesn't matter. The no's already there, whether you ask or not. But if you ask and they say yes, you know what? Let's interview. Let's talk. If I like you, if you're a good fit to our team, let's bring you on. And we'll start working with you on training. The other thing I would caution anyone that goes this route, and this is a great route to actually get your foot in the door, is also look at the training programs, because there are a lot of companies that's like, I just need a body. And that can be detrimental when you're trying to get started in HVAC if you don't really know and understand the concepts behind HVAC. And so you make sure you focus on, how do I invest in myself? How do I learn what I need to know to be proficient at this job? Learning never stops. Your company could send you to a trade school, they could pay for it, and all of a sudden, even though they did that your first year, maybe 2 years in, and they don't send you any more training, there's still so much that has to be learned and be able to apply those concepts to really be good at this trade.
All right, Eric, so if I wanted to get started in HVAC, is there any sort of certification or training, if I want to invest my time and money into getting that type of stuff, what should I look for if I want to be more of a qualified individual for the HVAC trade?
Absolutely, and that's a great point, Austin, because coming into HVAC, there actually are some guideline certifications that you have to have. One of them is the EPA 608 certification to even handle refrigerant, and that's really what that certification is. EPA has certain guidelines on refrigerant handling and how to hook up gauges, and if you do anything with refrigerant, you have to have the 608 EPA license. So that would be the first and foremost that you would want to get, and I'll kind of break down what EPA is. So Environmental Protection Agency, they monitor any chemicals that get released into the environment, and so they want to have a control or a monitor type system on that, right? So if you get that license, you're now telling the federal government, hey, I understand the guidelines, I'm responsible of those guidelines, and I'm going to act accordingly, and if not, there are some heavy fines and penalties for that. Legally, you can't even handle refrigerant without this EPA refrigerant license. You can't purchase it from supply houses, things of that nature. There are 3 different categories when it comes to the EPA 608. You have a type 1, which is for small type systems, holding only a certain small amount of refrigerant. Type 1 is dealing with low temp refrigeration type stuff. Your walk-in freezers, reach-in freezers, refrigerators, things of that nature, really small appliances. Type 2 is really what you would need to have to do residential and light commercial HVAC. So all your big HVAC companies that you see out there for residential, that one you need a Type 2 license to have. And then of course you have a Type 3. That's where you get more into commercial industrial air conditioning and refrigeration. Even though they're all off the same premise, because of their size and their capabilities, that's why the need for the different license on how to handle the refrigerant in those applications.
Okay, and then what about the NATE certification? I've heard about that one. I'm not no professional when it comes to the NATE certification, but I heard that's a pretty good one, or one to get for the HVAC too?
Absolutely. So the NATE certification stands for North American Technician Excellence. And what that certification is that you've shown proficiency in this industry. It's a very difficult test. Most people that try to take that test for the first time are not very successful because there is a lot, the way the questions are asked, that you have to have a good understanding of HVAC and be able to pull from that knowledge pool to be able to even answer those questions. If you're unable to do that because you don't have that experience or understanding, it's going to make it very, very difficult just to go in and answer those questions. But it is a test that some HVAC companies require to be able to have. So let's say you're looking to become a tech, like we talked about earlier. You go to a company and say, hey, I'm ambitious, I want to get into HVAC. You don't have these certifications. If they have a good training program set up, they may have that already included in their training program to be able to get you prepared correctly to be able to take those NATE exams. Any of these exams, they're not free. They do have a cost to them. Again, you're investing in yourself, your career, and your family when you go and take these exams. But by having those are accomplishments. One thing about NATE, once you get a NATE certification, and they've got multiple different areas. You've got a NATE certification for installation, heat pump, gas heat, air distribution. So all these different factors and areas, even on service and maintenance, you get to pick and choose which specialties you want to get. Now, once you get NATE certified, you're not NATE certified forever.
So is there a NATE certification like over all of it? Or like you're saying, you have to get a NATE certification for each different one?
Correct. You want to do it for each single one. So I'll give you an example. If I live in the Midwest, up in the northern area, maybe Chicago area, and it's a big gas heat area, right? Then maybe my focus is on getting a NATE certification for gas heat specific.
Okay.
Here in Arizona, we're a big heat pump area, so maybe my focus is going to be on AC heat pump here in Phoenix. And you can go and get every single one of them if you want, and the more you have, the better it's going to be for you. But know this, NATE is set up that once you get NATE certified, it's only good for 2 years. To keep the NATE certification going so it doesn't lapse, you have to continue your education. You got to attend some type of training annually to be able to keep your NATE credits up so that your license doesn't lapse. If NATE doesn't see anything come into them on your behalf that says, hey, you've attended this course that gives you this many credits, then they will get rid of your NATE certification and you'll have to redo all the testing at that point.
So if someone wants to okay, I should get my EPA 608 or my NATE, where can they look, or what should they do in order to get those certifications?
Great question, because it's kind of in-house in the HVAC industry, right?
Okay.
However, if someone goes in and gets their foot in the door with a company, right, it's going to be very difficult to get it outside of not already being in the HVAC realm. You can probably reach out to ESCO. ESCO is a big organization that has a lot of the 608. There's some different companies that may offer 608. You'll have to do the research to see who's doing that testing and see if they'll allow you to be able to take that test. So that's a way. But NATE certifications typically isn't something, you're usually going to get that in trade school. A lot of trade schools are administering the NATE test. I know when I do the Build-A-Tech classes for Linux, we include the NATE testing into that. And there are some companies, I've talked to some here in the Valley, that in their training program, they actually have a program to where they require that technicians get their NATE at some point.
Okay.
And here's the other advantage, especially with that particular company, is that as they get those NATE certifications, they give them raises on top of that. So everything that they pass, that bumps them up a little bit more when it comes to pay.
Okay, interesting. And then what about the EPA 609? Because I've seen that one too.
So absolutely. So you have an EPA 608, you have an EPA 609, and here's the difference between the two. 608, you've got a type 1, type 2, type 3, and that is for what we discussed already, small refrigeration, residential and light commercial, and then you have your type 3, which is industrial. And that is to work in any of those aspects and industries. But it doesn't pertain to vehicles.
Okay.
So underneath the hood, the AC system that's underneath the hood of every vehicle out there that has an AC system, that all falls under what they call MVAC, so different than HVAC. And that requires the 609 license, so that's an MVAC license.
Okay. So let's say maybe I want to get into automotive mechanics. So
Yes.
Should I pursue the 609?
100%.
Okay.
Yes.
And then how important do you think it is to go and get the 608, let's say if I want to go do residential HVAC, is it important for me to try to get my 608 and my NATE certification before, let's say, applying or trying to get to like a residential HVAC company near me? Do you think that's important? Is that a good step I should take, or should I try to land a job as a helper or as a laborer, or get my foot in the door with that HVAC company first and see if they'll offer for me to get it?
Absolutely. I would go with what you said the second time.
Okay.
Looking to get in with a company. Companies know that if somebody is eager and wants to learn, and they pick that up, right? It's just that human natural experience that we have interacting with each other. If I got somebody that comes to me and they're like, hey, I'm humble, I want to get into this trade, I want to learn, I heard that this is a great company and I really want to be a part of it, what do I need to do? And they go, well, what certifications? Everybody's going to ask, what do you have? What do you have to offer? And you're going to say, well, nothing. I have literally nothing other than my ambition to be able to do that. And if that company's willing to take you on, they'll bring you on with nothing. And they know the importance of getting those certifications and things. And they're like, okay, you want to do this? Here's what we'll do. What I've seen from most companies, and this is actually the best way to do it, because now you got your foot in the door. This company's now going to say, before I can use you, I need you to get that 608. I'll tell you what, maybe that company either pays for it, or maybe they say, hey, you pay for half, we'll pay for the other half. And if you fail it, then you're going to have to retake it, but you're going to have to pay for it out of pocket yourself. Companies do it all kinds of different ways. Those are just some ways I've seen out there in the field. But once you get it, you've got the EPA for life. That doesn't lapse, that stays constant.
Okay.
But now the NATE certification, it just depends on if the company requires you to have that NATE certification. So going back to your original question, should somebody do it before or after? I would definitely say wait till you get in with a company, because you don't know what programs they have already set up.
Okay.
It could save you a lot of time and money. And plus, trying to take these tests without understanding the industry makes it so much more difficult.
100%. Absolutely. So kind of piggybacking off that, you talk about a lot about being eager, having ambition and things like that. If you could give a few recommendations for maybe some soft skills versus hard skills for someone who want to get started, working your way up, right? We all have to start at the bottom somewhere as a helper, as an apprentice, as a laborer, and you work your way up to installation, then a maintenance, and then so on and so forth if you want to. What are some good skills for people to have who want to look into get into the HVAC trade?
That is a great question, especially being an instructor, right? Teaching HVAC, teaching all this stuff. And so we tend to focus on the hard skills the most. And because you gotta know your job, you gotta know what you're doing, you gotta know how to identify problems, understand the sequence of operation, how does the equipment work, and you gotta know it it's got to be second nature to you. And that's kind of an implied, makes sense. If you're going to be a tech, this is what you got to know. However, the soft skill piece, I actually in every class that I teach, we include the soft skills. There's a module, it could be a day, it could be a couple of days, it could be every day. Some of the classes that I do, we start out with the soft skills, because if you're not good at the communication, if you're not good at communicating with customers, you're just not going to get anywhere in this industry. I mean, even with your employer, your boss, whoever you're working for, the customers that you run into, you've got to create that experience to build your reputation as a tech. I tell my techs all the time, just because you're a tech working for a company, your name is still on the line. You're the person that company sent to that homeowner. You represent yourself, you represent that company, and you've got to get good at soft skills. Soft skills is going to be what takes you from, yeah, I'm an HVAC tech, but are you an HVAC tech that customers want in their home? Are you an HVAC tech that feel confident in your capabilities because you're able to communicate that properly? I've even told technicians, focus on learning psychology, learning how people interact with each other. Take as many sales classes, even though we don't focus so much on selling techs in a lot of our training, you still got to have that skill set to be able to communicate.
Yeah, 100%. I think soft skills they actually go, I feel like, a long way, especially in the trades, because especially like in the lineman trade, if I get someone new, either he's a first-time apprentice or a groundman, and he's never worked in the trade before, I don't care. If he has a good attitude and that eagerness and wanting to learn and be at work, shows up to work, early, which I think is 15 minutes, at least 15 minutes early, and like shows these types of soft skills, I'm gonna want to put more into trying to help him, because he's showing that good attitude, showing that ambition, versus someone who is, let's say they don't have any experience, they come in and they don't have a good attitude, and I'm like, what's going on here? Or even if they do have experience and they think they're the bull grunt and they know all this stuff, they still have a bad attitude, I'm like, what are you doing? So like, I think soft skills go a long way. And you've been in the trade long enough, in the HVAC industry, you could agree with that, especially from that tech to customer interaction. That's where the money's at.
Oh, 100%. Austin, I actually had my own business here. I was a contractor for 2 years here in Phoenix. One thing we don't have in Phoenix is a winter. So you're busy in the summer, but it's dead in the winter. And I just got tired of the roller coaster. That was the only reason I shut down my business. I enjoyed it. I loved my customers. My customers knew me. When you get good at soft skills, here's what happens. You show up to a customer's house. You build that relationship. It's no longer a customer. It's no longer a job. It's a, hey, Mrs. So-and-so, they need me to come out there because they're having an issue with their system. These are some of the things that's happened to me in my business. I've gotten calls around Christmas time. Hey, I need you to come out. My AC's not working. I'm like, well, we were just there a couple months ago. We did a check. Everything was fine at the time. I just need you to come out here. And I would show up. They got a huge Christmas party going. And they're giving me, hey, we got this for you and your wife and everything. And I'm going, wow, this is amazing. And that's what the soft skills brings.
Exactly.
And you mentioned attitude. Attitude is everything. I don't care if you're having a bad day, your world's turned upside down. When it's time to show up and perform, you've got to be that person that creates the customer experience to be able to handle the business, take care of the job, and be as professional as possible to put a good image to that customer, not only for yourself, but your business as well. If I'm a business owner and I hire a tech and they have a bad attitude, just like you're talking about, and I'm going to get that feedback from that homeowner. That homeowner is going to call me as soon as that tech leaves and go, don't ever send this person again.
Yep, 100%. And that's where I've heard, especially in residential HVAC, is that's where the money's at. Is, you always hear the stories, or I read a lot of like comments, Reddit threads and things like that. And it's like, oh, like the only way you make money in HVAC is if you are the service guy and you're selling something, and then you end up, that's where you're getting a commission and this and that, and that's where you make your money. But I think, I don't know, I can't speak from being an owner or being even a service tech or a tech at all, because I've never been one. But from your experience, where do you see that money in HVAC? Where do you see making the money in HVAC?
Ironically, soft skills, and I'll tell you why. So when I built my business, I did it because I was working for other manufacturers. I mean, I've got years of experience, not only in the Air Force, but also in the civilian sector, even directly with manufacturers, where I've talked with business owners and this push, money. And I get the concept, but when I started my business, I said, you know what, I want to do things right by the customer. And I focused on the soft skills and interpersonal relationships. I felt like I never sold anything to any of my customers because, one, I didn't sell them something they didn't need. I focused strictly on, here's my diagnosis, here's what's going on with the system. Do you need a new system? I would highly recommend you either do because it's not working, or you're going to need one very soon because you can only put so much money into an older system. Also, hey, what are some complications, some issues? That's where that soft skills comes in. What are things that concern you about your system? Is your house dirty? Do you have pets and animals and dander and things of that nature? Maybe there's a better filtration system for your system. This is what it does. Homeowners, all you got to do is present them with options and let them decide. And if you've built those good customer relations, guess what's going to happen? You know what, Austin, I trust you in your assessments. You've done great by me all these years. You know what, let's move forward with that. Let's do that. I didn't sell them anything. I just let them know, hey, there's things out there that can make your life better when it comes to your heating and air conditioning equipment.
All right, Eric, so closing out, I kind of like to do this thing where you could give the steps someone needs to take in order to get started in a trade. So if someone wants to get into HVAC, whether I'm 18 or just graduated high school this year, or maybe I'm 35 and I have a family, a mortgage, and 2 car payments, but I'm like, HVAC is something I want to get into, what are some steps I can take right now in order to start pursuing and get into the HVAC industry?
Absolutely. So kind of going through a 5-step program of being able to do this. If I was looking for that, whether 18 years old, 35 years old, just trying to get into this industry, is first, I would start making a list of all the HVAC companies in my area. You can Google it, you can start researching it. You can kind of figure out, one, what do those companies do? Because you need to know, are they refrigeration? Are they heavy commercial, industrial type? Or are they just a residential, light commercial type of company? Determine what area you want to go in, and then just start making those calls. Start calling in, saying, and just introducing yourself. You know, be professional. Hi, my name is Eric Grubbs. I'm interested in getting into HVAC. I'm not currently in HVAC. I don't have any certifications, any degrees, haven't been through any training, but I really want to learn this, and I wanted to see if your company is looking to take on somebody to train. You do that, you're going to have some good conversation. It may be a quick no, and then just move on to the next one, right? There's tons of these companies everywhere, and you just might land to where they say, you know what, we've been having a difficult time. We've got a great training program, or we know where to get you into training. Let them do the training piece. So that would be the first step. Second step is obviously you can go and start looking at trade schools. I know here in Phoenix, you've got quite a bit of schools that you can go and attend. Of course, there is cost to that. I'm a veteran. If you're a veteran and you have a GI Bill that you can utilize, you can absolutely use your GI Bill to take those classes and allow the government to pay for it while you go to school and learn that trade. So that would be another avenue. You can even do what I did. I went and joined the U.S. Air Force and came into HVAC that way. It just really depends on what you want to do. I used to tell students when I was an instructor in the Air Force, I'm like, hey, if you came here to learn HVAC, learn it, spend your 4 years getting proficient at it, and then go out and find civilian work as an HVAC tech. If you're looking to be a career military person, then do your job as an HVAC tech, but just understand your career path is going to lead to leadership, and that's going to be your main focus. So it just depends on what somebody's really looking to do. If you want to get into residential or refrigeration, start reaching out to refrigeration companies and see what their requirements are so that you can start either working toward it, or hopefully they'll just be willing to bring you on. Those are typically your best bets when doing this. I will tell you this, I worked on a contract for Intel, big computer chip manufacturer, and when I was working over there with them consulting, their HVAC shop and their technicians, to work there, you had to be you had to have a degree in mechanical engineering to be a technician.
Wow.
So depending on where you're trying to go and what you're trying to do, there may be even more strenuous restrictions that may limit you in those aspects. But if you're really wanting to get in, residential is going to be probably the easiest way, and just having those conversations with those companies.
Okay, that's perfect. I'll just add on top of that, like we talked about earlier, union apprenticeships, something I'll totally preach about and talk about, just because that barrier to entry is as easy as you going on your laptop and looking up UA, the United Association's Pipe Trades Union, which they cover pipe fitters, plumbers, HVAC techs, and maybe one or two other trades. So if you're interested in any of those trades, but the UA covers HVAC technicians. Look up, especially if you're in a metro area near a big city, you're gonna have most likely a UA union hall near you. Call them up or go down to their location or go on their website, and there should be an apply tab. And literally, you can just apply for the apprenticeship. And usually the requirements are 18 years old, have a high school diploma or GED, be able to provide identification like a social security card or birth certificate to show that you're a citizen or a resident in a state or in America. And like those are the requirements, and most people already meet those requirements. Yes. So I would suggest that as well, as on top of what Eric suggested, is that just because they have great apprenticeships and you're going to earn while you learn, there are companies out there, open shops that do have their own training programs or their own apprenticeships. It all depends on the area you live in. Arizona, like Eric was saying, we are not a pro-union state here, especially for HVAC or electrical or plumbing. But if you go to California, they are.
Yes.
Right? Or if you go to New York or New Jersey or somewhere on the East Coast, they are. But anywhere in the middle, not so much. So try to find that good training program, whether that's with the union or with just a good HVAC company in your area. Certifications, yes or no on that? Do you think that's something you should try to do?
I wouldn't try it initially. I would on your own. I would try to get in with the company and then try to work it that way.
Okay. Perfect. Well, Eric, I really appreciate your time allowing me to come down to your residence, come film this podcast episode. Hopefully we do some more stuff in the future. Any of you guys who are wanting to get an HVAC, hopefully you guys enjoyed this episode. Lots of valuable information from Eric, who's been in the trade for 20 plus years. He's an instructor, he's a trainer now. This is his thing. Eric loves to train. He loves to educate on the HVAC industry. This is his bread and butter. So, like I said, hopefully we'll be able to continue to do some more things in the future. Maybe we can build out a little mini course or something like that in the near future to help those who just want to get into the trade.
Absolutely, Austin. Thank you so much for allowing me to be on your podcast this morning.
Of course. So with Blue Collar Edu, we're here to expose, teach, educate you guys about blue collar career opportunities and how to get started in the trades. If you guys enjoy this episode, please share it with anyone else out there who wants to become an HVAC technician, wants to get into this industry. Don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe for more blue collar education.